All aboard! We're getting back on the trend train with the top 5 trends in powder coating that are happening right now. Today, we have Editor-in-Chief of FinishingandCoating.com, Tim Pennington. Writing on the daily about the coatings industry for over a decade, including powder and liquid coatings, anodizing and plating, PVD and E-coating. Tim joins us for an interesting discussion around what he's found out from other coaters, just like you. What are they thinking about? What could be their next move? And what does the industry need to focus on more to improve systems and production? Buy a ticket and grab a seat. Let's see where this train goes. Get ready to level up your powder coater game. Welcome to Roscoe's Powder Coater Podcast. I'm your co-host, Kim Scott. Today, we welcome Tim Pennington of Finishing and Coating's online magazine. If you haven't, if you're not a subscriber, please go over there. We'll give you the link in the description below to go and follow his magazine. Tim, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Kim. It's great to be here. Aloha.
Yeah, I was just remarking at how tan you look and how pale I look, and it looks like you're on vacation with your background. So I kind of like that.
Sort of, yeah. It's just a lot of golf. Get out and play a lot of golf. That's what it is. I stand around a lot. That's what you need to do, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Looking for the balls. I get a lot of sun looking for the golf balls. That's what it is. You get a lot of sun that way.
Looking in the bushes and
everywhere.
in the pond and all of that stuff, in the sand traps. Yeah, I miss golf. I need to get back into it. I was really enjoying it there for a while, but we got so busy with the business that it's just been too hard to get back into it. But I did try to enjoy it. It's definitely different, and it's like one of those, like, you challenge yourself. It's this inner challenge thing. So I get why a lot of people like it. So I'm so happy to have you have the time to come on the show, because I know how busy you are writing. Do you go to a lot of conferences and stuff too as well?
I started to pick it back up. I just was at the conference down in Charlotte, the CCAI conference there, and heading to, actually, I think I'm heading back to South Carolina soon, the Myrtle Beach electroplating conference they're having. But until everything closed down, yes, it was a lot of getting out and seeing everybody, which is the pure joy, is when you actually get to see people and talk to them. That's the best part of it. Yeah,
I think people are definitely missing that human connection, and we're kind of ready to move on. You started, this is your magazine, and tell us how you got into writing and all of this about, because you cover not just powder coating, but you cover coatings in general as well. Like, it's a broader, so tell us more about your magazine and how you got started in the writing about it.
Well, it's interesting. I just realized the other day, the first digital magazine, it's a magazine in a digital form, meaning it's online, exclusively online. And it was last August 2020, it was my first edition. And so, matter of fact, I just wrote my column for the August 2021 edition of, happy birthday, and it's gone by very, very fast. But, I've been covering the finishing and coating industry for about 12 years, and took a break at early part of 2020. But, it's funny, I still kept in contact with a lot of people in the industry, especially the job shops, the owners. Those are people that I really, truly, talk to the most, and visiting their shops. That's one of the things that I enjoy doing. And kind of the discussion came about of what some of the needs were. Like I said, I was sort of out of the industry for about 6 weeks, and then I had some people say, here's what we're really needing. And it was a couple tools that they talked about. One of them was really a database of shops. And again, you mentioned, powder coating, but I also, there's liquid coating, there's the, electroplating, anodizing there's a side of it. You've got people doing a lot of, mechanical finishing, polishing and those type of things. And they're all over the place. And so, I would get calls over the last decade or so from a lot of people saying, I'm looking for somebody that can do this for me. These were OEMs or manufacturers. I'm looking for somebody that can do a car coating for me, or I'm looking for somebody that can do an anodizing or a plating on tin or things like that. And so it really spoke to me that, okay, what if we put together a database that listed all the shops and where they're located and what they offered, so people can search that. And then it sort of springboarded out. Well, somebody said, well, I have a lot of sometimes equipment and supplies that I don't need. They're sitting around. I wouldn't mind selling them, to somebody who needs them or giving them away. I had someone email me the other day. They were giving away a powder coating that's they want to get rid of it,
Right. Yeah.
And so that, and then also at that point, we were just getting into, with a lot of workforce development, people were looking for, managers to run their operations or supervisors and things like that. So it was really those three components of, okay, what about a database that could, OEMs could easily go in and search? What about, a tool where shops could sell their, used guns, used lines, whatever they want to do, a powder or whatever it was. And so I actually, it's kind of started putting it together. I have some web design and web development experience. I started putting that together. And, didn't really expect to do a lot with articles and features or things like that. Well, then all of a sudden, I started getting some notes from people, and they would say, oh, I'm doing this at my shop and this. And so I just started writing about it, putting it in there, and voila, before I knew it, I'm writing every day about this stuff again, sort of around that, which is great because it brings people to the site to, if they're using those tools, as I mentioned, and also, we've developed a kind of a forum, a community bulletin board. People can post notes and get answers back and forth and things like that. So
that's cool. I didn't see that feature.
It's just called forum, and it's been a little slow, but people have been. I think only because a lot of people are just so darn busy these days and such. But all those components, and then. I did it for about 6 months and didn't make any money off of it. Wasn't really interested in selling ads. I had people contact me, but I was more interested in making great content. That's knowing that, people like yourself and other shop owners, they don't have time to sit there behind a computer all day and read things. It's got to be, dead on to what it's got to be in their sweet spot of what they're doing. So, and then at the end of last year, I sort of said, okay, I took on some sponsors and advertisers but I post every day. I'm writing usually about a facility every single week and getting a lot of still getting a lot of technical pieces. I know those things are very, very helpful and getting that. So it's been a pure joy, like I said, of sort of bringing it, and the feedback I'm getting and the volume. And one of the things I found out is that people do want to see things every day. So I post things. The minute I get it, I post it. And then at the end of the month, I sort of compile it all for people who maybe missed a few, but compile it all. And it's a magazine that you can go online and look at. So I put that together and kind of lay it out. And then, and it's gone great. It's been more than I ever imagined. I mean, we're getting close to 200,000 page views a month for That's articles. Awesome. Yeah, people are really looking at it. And I'm finding we have a core of about between 15 to 17,000 unique users. So I track that through IP addresses. So I know, and they come back 6 to 7 times a month. So, looking at that, they're coming back and reading the articles. So I'm excited with it. And like I said, hopefully look forward soon to, get out and visit some more people and get in the shops like it was before. So, yeah.
Yeah. I enjoy your style of writing. It's informative, but concise. And I do always look forward to getting that email in the mail. Like, oh, what's going on? What's Tim writing about now? Of course, I'll share my screen here. Hold on. Tim has written about full disclosure, Tim's written about me in the 20 questions, which I actually kind of like. It's not just kind of like I enjoyed the process, and I know you bugged me for a long time because I don't know what I was doing in 2020. Oh yeah, I was launching a podcast, but anyways,
yes, you're kind of busy. Yes,
it's a great way to kind of, but I think I was avoiding these questions. Like,
look at that, 1,000 people have read that. Close.
Oh, really? How do you see that? Oh,
right
yeah.
There. Yeah, 1,000 people.
Oh, I didn't even see that. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. And then I had to find all these pictures of. I just, I don't know. I'm not.
Well, I only asked two questions about the industry. The first one, how'd you get into it and what do you enjoy? And the rest of it is, if you were on a deserted island, what's the worst thing you ever ate? Things like that. And it is because, people like you and others who are shop owners and people that manage shops and everything, it's just, fun to find out what makes them tick a little bit and what do they do and interesting things about them.
It is.
Here's a message from today's sponsor.
Roscoe here from Maui Powder Works. We've been providing customers with high-end custom coatings for over 20 years. We love the powder coating business. Making auto parts, patio furniture, and stuff beautiful for our customers is the fun part. As you know, the hardest part of any job is getting parts prepped for finishing. At times, this means removing tough industrial OEM coatings, which can take hours, if not days, of chemical stripping and sandblasting. Our business was revolutionized when we discovered the great strippers from Benco Sales. Their customer service folks asked the right questions and recommended a stripper tailored for our needs. Give them a call today at 1-800-632-3626.
Get 10% off any B17 products when you mention Roscoe.
I think at the time I wrote my proudest was the podcast, and it still is today. I'm very proud of the podcast.
Congrats to you, yes.
It's a labor of love, but it's also, I get to meet people like you, and I learned so much more about the business that I don't know when I'm stuck here on an island. And I feel more confident in my game because I am meeting these people and stuff. But I think the latest person, well, let's see, I want to get into this article here, but I do want to give a shout out to, actually, let me go back to this page because the latest guy is Tony.
Tony.
Yes. And I've been trying to talk to Tony. So, hey, Tony, call me back. But yeah, he's kind of an I know he's on, I was supposed to call him because he's part of the PCI. He's a PCI member now. So my job was to volunteer to talk to him and stuff like that. But he was too busy going to the annual meeting.
Yes.
So, but he did manage to snap a shot from his balcony and made me feel like I was, part of that group. It's just too restrictive for us to leave Maui to come. But anyways, this is the powder coating. He's got it all broken. You've got it all broken down by the different kinds of, processes.
Applications. Yeah. All the processes and applications.
Yeah. And so we have our own powder coat page, which is obviously I'm on here all the time. And, you talk from an informative point of view and stuff like that. And so anyways, wanted to show that. So let's see, let me go to the next page because I think that's where that article was. But it's nice. I think it's a way of giving back to the community by, being able to present people in the industry just to give them that exposure, the backlink that they need or whatever. So this is the one here, the top 5 trends. This is why I called you.
Yes.
And stuff. And I think this is a great article. I recently started looking at some of the mega trends and stuff that we started, talking about and what these mega trends are. Like, why does
AkzoNobel buy every factory in Europe or in Southeast Asia? What's China up to? And, so we've done some previous trend podcasts and stuff like that. But I think from a US perspective, you've definitely nailed the top 5 here. The last one is actually the one that grabbed me the most, which I thought the guy was like, or wait, was it this one? Wait a minute. No, it's this guy right here, I think.
Right. Ken Martin.
Yeah. And he's like, he was saying something about, maybe I'm wrong on this one, but basically he was like, all these people call it, these customers that just hear about powder coating, they see it online or they see it in Instagram or whatever, and they're calling us and we don't know what to do with them. And it's like, we need, we can't help these people because we're commercial coaters, right? We're line coaters and stuff like that. So that was part of the reason why, in terms of, you filling the gap and in the market that you saw by starting finishing and coating. I also saw gaps in the market about how when you look at Google searches, you see a list of coaters, but you can't tell which ones are commercial coaters or custom coaters, right?
Right.
And maybe some do both, So part of the reason of starting a website called powdercoatingnearme.com is sort of like to define that a little better. So I'm all for databases, defining our market and defining who's in our market a little bit more finer. And that you touched on earlier, which, struck a chord in me in terms of like, it's part of the topic is self-determination, but it's also like, who are we and where are we going and how big are we, right?
Right.
And I think there's definitely, I don't know who else is going to answer that question except for people like us, right? That are writing about it or questioning it, and questioning others, I don't even think some of the major institutions know, even though they've paid for all this research to define how many coaters there are in North America or globally or whatever. I think there's still some doubt about who and what, and part of it is just naming people. Like, I hate to say names, but like defining, whether we're calling ourselves garage coaters or custom coaters or commercial coaters or whatever, it's like, it has to start with a name,
right,
or a definition of some sort, right? Do you agree?
Right. Yeah. So I do, because like I said, there's it runs the gamut. I mean, you can have some huge operations out there that do really phenomenal work, and then you can have very small, 1,000 square foot facility, and so that very limited what they could do probably. And if you're if you're somebody who's searching for a coater, it can be confusing to them. And so and people, everybody's that says that they're a powder coater, right? But what scale? What can you do? And what qualifications do you have to do this? And so it's very interesting. And you're right about what type of what type of levels those are. It seems in as opposed to other, it seems in powder coating as opposed to other applications. For example, in the electroplating or the anodizing world, it's kind of based on your qualifications. If if you're NADCAP certified, it means you've gone through strenuous inspections and you're meeting all of these criteria. You have to have so much. You have to write down the list: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You have to have all that. And if you're a facility and you're NADCAP certified, you almost instantaneously know what they've got, what they can do. And it's almost made it easier to figure that out. Although, you ask those shops, they're spending, $20,000, $30,000 a year just to maintain that certification. They had to hire 3 people to keep it all. But there's a reason for that, because, only because, if an OEM or a manufacturer wants to know exactly could do it. And I see a lot of that getting into with the architectural coatings, with the with the AAMA
Right.
certifications and those type of things. So
They're good.
Yeah, in the market, right?
yeah, defining who some of these who can do
Who's
what,
who and
Right.
what they can do, and how how defining it and talking about this self-determination stuff is just been the topic of what's I've seen online and in what I'm feeling myself as well. Just it needs to get a little better in order for us to understand these global trends that are happening, because the global guys already they know what's going on. We just need to figure out what we need to do and what opportunities there are, kind
Right.
of like the opportunities you took when you saw gaps in the market. There's lots of gaps
Right.
in the powder coating world
Right.
that I see that could definitely benefit and stuff. And I think I don't know who's going to be doing the defining. I think that, I don't know. I hope it's all like there's somebody or a group of us that kind of come from everywhere. And that's what I'm thinking in my mind. But, you talk to people like, Joey Golliver, who I had on the show, who was just basically saying, nah, they don't care, right. And
Right.
it was kind of mind opening for me to hear that point of view from him. It's, of course that's his opinion, but, he's someone that, has been in the business for a while. So like, I kind of understood a little better where he's coming from. Of course, where do you think the custom coater business is going? Because you kind of see both, you see industrial coaters and custom coaters,
Right. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because, a lot of the, like I said, other types of coatings, if you look at other coatings besides powder coatings, okay, a lot of it is driven by, like I said, certifications or specs that are out there. Manufacturers will spec what they want, how they want these, parts or products to be coated, how they're going to last. Architectural coatings, how long they're going to last. What's got to be the guarantee on these things. And I think that, in those other type of applications, other type of coating processes, that's what's driving it. For example, the automotive industry specified how they wanted everything done. These were, really mission critical parts. Aerospace. I mean, you can't get more mission critical than that.
Right.
And so when you look at liquid paint applications, such as for Boeing or Airbus or something, and you've got these facilities that are coating parts that are going to be doing that. There's very critical requirements that have to be made, and they get tested, very heavily tested. And so powder coating, sometimes you don't see that as much. You don't see a lot of heavy testing, almost because these aren't a lot of mission critical parts or components that need that. So, and I think a lot of what happens, unfortunately, is you get a lot of applicators who get away with, calling themselves what they're not, which is a high level coder, because they're not doing a lot of testing and laboratory work to make sure the coating was applied correctly, and it's got the pre-treatment was there and all these things. And I've heard some applicators say, well, that part's going to be outside for maybe 3 or 4 years. It was there's it's going to rust, or it's going to do this, it's going to do that. But I think that's, and again, I'm not sure if I know exactly what that answer is going to be, only because it seems like a lot of coders haven't been asked to live up to, I would say guarantees, but specifications on a line.
Right. But at the same time, we have our reputation, right? So,
right.
And that really is kind of the make it or break it for us as the wild card people, the wild carders out there, if you want to call the custom coder industry wild cards. Not everybody's going to have that not everybody's going to have the talent or the systems in place to make sure that the reputation is, and that I think is the only thing that really defines custom coder at the moment, and maybe forever, because unless we're getting into specs and compliance and that sort of thing, it's the only thing that can, because you're only as good as your last job, right?
Correct. Right.
I think that it's the only measure that customers can rely on, and that's why you have to work so hard at doing your own it's reputation, maintaining your own reputation.
Putting your own stamp on it, so to speak.
Right.
And I've been through a lot of shops that have impressed upon me that that's what they do.
Right.
They're how they pre-treat, how they get ready. That's what separates them. Only because they just, they want to have relationships with their customers that last a long time. And then there's some that it's like, yeah, we'll do that job. It comes in, they do it. There's an issue. Well, we'll go get somebody else, and those type of things. And so when you find, I've gone into some places where they've said, we've had this same customer for 25 years. They know what we do. They know how we do it. And that seems to be the really elite type of and I, if I was to go out and hire a coder, I'd say, can you give me a list of your customers and how long you've been with them? That's the big key, I think, is how long have you been with them, or how long have they been with you? Are you meeting on time delivery? Are you, delivering them? Are you not cutting corners when it comes to, coating their part? Putting on powder coating. A lot of people can do that. Pre-treating correctly, pre-treating aluminum, cleaning it, getting it ready. That's a tough thing to do sometimes, especially when you don't really know what's on these materials. A lot of times, you're using a cleaning process where you're sort of not knowing what's been on there. There might be flash rust on this or whatever it may be. So, yeah, I think that there needs to be, and that might be something that the industry want to look at, is really some classification. Only because I think a lot of shop owners and managers don't want to waste a lot of time bidding on jobs, or talking to people that they're not going to get the job, or we're not equipped to do that type of work, and so that might be something that really might be a really good indicator, so that when manufacturers are looking for somebody, or OEM is looking for somebody, they can easily find it and know that they're that's somebody that can handle their work and do it for a long term on that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that this, I've seen it in, now you're industry based, so a lot of the hits you get on your website are from industry people. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you'll probably get a consumer and they're searching for a certain search topic or whatever, but I think that for me, because my measure is this blog, right? And the blog tells me how many, we've got certain things in place social media wise, but like the blog tells me how, how many people are hitting it, what they're searching, what's the phrases that they're searching and stuff like that.
Right.
And it can vary, it goes up and down and stuff. Of course, when COVID hit, like the blog just went ballistic, because people had all this extra time to kind of do searches on powder coating and stuff. But more and more people are consumers are actually now actively searching for powder coatings. Here's a message from today's sponsor.
Do you know chemical strippers from Benco Sales reduced our prep time by up to 80%? We chose Benco B17 and have been using it now for 5 years. We were surprised at how effortless it removed finishes from literally anything we put into it. Removal takes minutes, not hours. Several suppliers over the years have told us they have something as good as B17, but don't believe it. There's a reason the name B17 is universally applied for those claiming to have fast strippers. Buy it by name and available only by Benco Sales. B17 is the industry benchmark by which every other stripper is compared. Accept no substitute. Get started today by going to bencosales.com. BENCO sales.com.
Say Roscoe sent you for 10% off B17.
Not just locally, but just what they are. How does it work? What do they do? How does it get done? You know, how do I pick this color and stuff like that? So I've seen our own blog and our own, you know, interest level go up over the years. And I think that that's where I kind of came to you and said, look, I know I have evidence of this, right? You know, like, because I can see it in our own analytics and stuff. And I think that that's a good thing. Because it's only going to just bring more consumers and more customers to upstart powder coaters or custom coaters in that, because they're going to go there first before they get a line coating system or whatever, you know, and I think that that's a good thing. You know, how do we track it outside of that? You know, it's hard to say. I don't know, but I imagine some, you know, maybe that's why I have all these sites, you know, to kind of try to track that kind of information to the industry. Maybe we can at some point be able to share that information to the industry as we kind of figure out who we are, what's our names, what are we doing, what defines us, you know? Yeah, so I think it's,
I think you've given me an idea for a story.
Yeah, that's what we're here for, right? You know, like.
No, seriously, of looking at that and saying, you know, is that something that the industry needs? Is that something? And it's going to be driven by, to be honest with you, I mean, you look at, the associations that drive that are, a lot of the, the powder coating and liquid coating industry. A lot of those are driven by suppliers. And occasionally you'll see the actual powder coater that's involved in it, in the leadership position with that. And so, but I think a lot of it is, sort of, asking them, what should you call yourself? How do you want to define that? I've had suppliers in the industry tell me that, powder coating is a very easy operation for people to just, pop up and start a business somewhere, It's there, it's there. It goes for a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, then it's gone, But, and again, how do you regulate that in the industry so that people who truly, they don't get frustrated, the people who want to spend money on powder coating don't get frustrated because they can't find the right person. And right. They need to find them, and time is critical. And not just finding them, but finding, the right partner that they can work with, somebody who's very credible, because I hate to say it, same was in the electroplating industry where they had some people that were, putting garden hoses down the drain, and that's how they were getting rid of toxic waste. It gave a bad name for everybody in the industry. Right. And, especially in the US, I mean, in manufacturing, you want the manufacturing sector to know that there are enough quality coaters in the United States to handle all their work. They don't need to send it to Mexico or Europe or have it done in China. They can get it done here. That's the big thing with that. So,
yeah, I kind of started something. Well, I didn't really start this hashtag, but I kind of posted something about I'm kind of creating this post for Instagram for my followers, which are mostly consumers, local customers of mine and stuff. I have a few. We have a few. Other custom coaters that follow us as well. So, but for the most part, I kind of really try to build my Instagram posts around my customer. And so a lot of times it's just about really, it's not just about, why you want to support your local powder coater it's the hashtag support your local powder coater. Because it's not just talent, and this kind of goes in with pricing, I guess, is where I'm getting with it, right? Is custom coaters, pricing is an issue. It's much easier, I think, and I could be wrong, but commercial coders, they're line systems, so their margins are smaller, so they get down to the minuscule, like micro data to make sure they know that they're making money or not, you know?
Right.
And so custom coders is just a little bit more ambiguous. And so a lot of the times they'll get beaten down by their customers, like, well, so-and-so down the street will charge me this much, but, you know, hey, you want this job? I'll pay you this much, right? And it's this constant pricing battle. And I think it kind of doesn't, you know, for those just starting out, or even just those that have been at it and can get, you know, downtrodden, I guess,
Right.
about it. I don't know why, you know, people believe this, that they have to be competitive, because when you have that talent and you've got you have that ability, it's like, it's not just the ability or the processes, it's knowing that. It's the knowing, right? So that you do
Right.
feel confident when you're charging the right price for your customer stuff.
Right. Right.
But one of the, you know, I kind of broke it down into a few things as to the reason why you should be charging more money for your jobs. And number one, delayed effects from exposure, you know, top of mind for me, because, you know, we've been having a few podcasts talking about, you know, about the different kinds of exposures to toxic chemicals and toxicity levels of beryllium and the methylene chloride. We also have delivery times. Custom coders are always on, you know, just like commercial coders, I guess, or line coders, they have these deadlines and stuff like that. We still have to work late nights, and, you know, if something messes up, a part messes up, whatever, you still, the deadline is still there, right?
Right.
And then we have, I call this one rejection subjection. and it's because out of a certain group of, you know, jobs, some aren't going to be perfect. There might be some flaw in the metal itself, especially restoration. You've got a lot more part failure going on there than versus new parts and stuff. And so even though you can take all the precautions in the world in dealing with somebody's antique this or 25-year-old that, you know, you still have to redo, of which you never tell your you never tell your customer that you had to do that part 3 or 4 times, right? You know, like, because if you do, then it's a reflection on, you know, yourself. And sometimes that's hard to take, you know. And then the other one is powder paradox, because we're constantly challenged to scale up or lose a job. So, you know, not everybody has $150,000 to $250,000 to put into a business and just start from day one. A lot of us are just kind of starting in our garage with a homemade oven or this and that. And so we're kind of constantly, it never ends. There's always, and I think that most custom coders, I guess probably I could say for Ross and I, we had no idea how much the demand of equipment was. And we were coming from painting, which had some kind of level of demand for equipment and you know, buying new stuff here and there, but not at the scale that this company has been at, and stuff. So those are just some of my, I think the criminal, I call this one criminal determination, or it could be, you know, kind of along the lines of self-determination, in the sense that we are staying beholden to a tight quality standard, and namely our own, right? You know, like our own standards. And that's what really defines talent and capability, is it's not just, you know, when you look at someone like good example, I'm going to pick on Ro this week because he's just had a recent anniversary, and he's just such an inspiration for all of us custom coders out there. But like, you know, he has set the standard for himself, and delivers on those expectations, not just because of his customer, but because of himself, right? His own standard, that he uses to differentiate himself from other coders. And that's what makes him. So in a sense, it's something that line coders will never understand, or, you know, maybe I'm being ignorant here, but it is kind of something that is a little different. Maybe you call it secret sauce, or the magic, or whatever. I don't know. And then I have the last one is stealth mode singularity, which is kind of I don't know where I came up with that one. But basically you're constantly building your name, your reputation. You know, you're taking away nights and weekends from your family in order to do this. It's sort of the entrepreneur paradox, I guess, so to speak. You have to create the content to get those customers in the door, you know, whether it be your website, social media, or, you know, whatever it takes to stand out. Because, you know, in one sense, powders help, for example, you know, a set of rims. Powder makes it all look good, but which one is, you know, how does the customer, the customer doesn't know the difference between this black rim from this guy and that black rim from that guy. It's all kind of the same. So you wouldn't know unless you were looking for something else. And that's all I wanted to say about that. I mean, I think.
I was going to say, it's funny you mentioned one part there, and I think you were mentioned earlier about, I think you referenced this, that one of the gentlemen that I had quoted in that story about 5 trends, this was like, we did the 5 trends, but then we had some, and again, these all came from coders, like nothing that I came up with. They all kind of was kind of a formation. But he was talking about, you know, a trend of managing great expectations, and he was talking about, you know, when customers are seeing samples, they're seeing these, you know, they're pristine and samples, and it's, you know, flawless, you know, substrate that's been polished, and he said, you know, this is, you know, I remember he kept calling it the illusions of Candyland colors. Is that, you know, we don't get the substrates looking like that when we get them, and you're going to run into issues like that,
right?
Because, you know, all the samples that you've originally showed them or they've seen have been immaculately prepared, and you know, it wasn't just, you know, there's probably the 5th one that came off the line. Well, this is great. Okay, we'll use this one. So, but, you know, it kind of reminded me of what you just said there about the expectations that, you know, a lot of it depends on the material you're getting, how good of a shape it's in, you know, because, you know, you all are, you know, trying to shine it, you know, trying to make it look great. And that can be a problem. And sometimes the customers just do not understand that. They just think that powder coating is going to hide a lot of flaws, when in actuality it celebrates a lot of flaws in the materials.
Right, it can.
Yeah, it can. And so, and that's something of getting people to understand that, which is, I think, you know, they need to build that into their quotes, is that, you know, we're going to have a little bit of this where you're not going to be happy, but that's what we were given. So,
yeah. I had a customer come in yesterday, and it's, I don't know, I think sometimes at nauseum, I just gotta go, oh God, I gotta go through this again. I gotta explain this one again, you know, like talking about chromes and why they're not reflective after you put the clear coat on them, and blah, blah, blah. And they're used for underlayments, for top coats. And, you know, damn it. I wish the powder coater supplier gods could just create a perfect chrome, you know, like when I'm tired of explaining myself, but no, I'm sure everybody is tired of explaining that as well. But the other thing is like, well, whatever you're doing, dude, stop going to Google, just go to Instagram and look at the hashtag powder coating. Okay.
Right.
Those are the colors. those are the looks you're going to find. Don't go to Google and find something that says powder coated rim, and it's an anodized rim, right? When it's, you know, like, I can't do that. I cannot do that. So, you know, sometimes you just want to scream at the top of your lungs. And I thought I had overcome that until I saw this guy come into my shop yesterday, and they do exist. And I'm sure I probably get less of that than maybe a lot of other guys do, every day coming in asking for some rim that's on Google that is nothing you can achieve in powder coating, right? So
Right.
that never ends either. But yeah, let's get into the article. I want to share my screen again.
Okay.
I think I'm there. Share. Yeah. And first of all, you got my little hero, Jace Kaiser. Love that guy.
Right.
He did come on the show and was one of the first guys, and he's still just all over Twitter and with his little like in the car videos and stuff like that, which I love. He's so on the spot and has a certain way about him that has something to say and you want to hear it.
Right.
And that is, like the wood and MDF thing is huge. This is, if you're not looking at this technology right now, I can't say that it's easy to get into just yet. This is what they were talking about in this point. But it will be soon, and it's just a matter of time.
It sort of came together, I think, over it's been around since the 70s. Morton, a company called Morton, tried to push it out there. But, you had a lot of problems over the years where, you're trying to coat a substrate, wood, MDF, which doesn't behave properly after it's coated. Mm-hmm. It wants to do a lot of different things. And also, you had to have the powder to do it. And then you had to have the ovens to help do it correctly. And so it seems like, and like I said, I kind of came across, IFS coatings, which had been, putting a lot of those components all together, working with, the manufacturers. I know Gemma has, come out with some technology that helps prevent, that wraparound effect on some powder coating. They've really worked with that. Wagner's done a lot of that too. Some of the IR ovens too. I remember, for this story, I spoke with a guy up in Oregon, Paul Unger, who had bought a powder coating operation, turned it almost exclusively to wood MDF because it wasn't doing properly. Right. His brother was into wood cabinetry and stuff like that. I know that they're doing a lot of stuff where they're getting some really specific type of wood and MDF that with the moisture content and such. But yeah, I think you're seeing it come across a lot more. But like you said, trends in Europe, we're about 10 years behind them. They've been doing this a lot. Yeah. They've been, a lot of the cabinetry makers, I know IKEA and a lot of those over in Europe are doing it there. The big question is, are there enough manufacturers in the U.S. that they would want this done? Like I said, a lot of things like cabinetry and stuff are probably done overseas, and because they could do it there. It's cheaper to do it in a powder coating, and it's more durable. And but the people that are using this now in kitchen cabinets and even garage cabinets and things like that just swear by powder coating. It's great for temperatures and when and moistures and things. So, but like I said, it really became the technology, the actual chemicals in the powder coating, the applicator guns, the wood, and also the ovens. You had to have all of those work together, and so that's where it's coming to with a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously you can tell like Keystone Coating and Kaiser, are poised. They're interested. I mean, they're talking about it in this point that they're big enough to where they have the money to invest in this type of technology. This could be the next level for them. But I guess the question after reading this for me was, is this a technology that a current painting company that fabricates or maybe paints for cabinets now wants to get out of painting and into powder coating these cabinets? Or is it going to be people like Jace that are already in the powder coating industry that could level up and do this type of coating as well. So that's kind of what, have you thought about that at all?
Hey, Powder Coating Nation, Kim Scott here. It's time to grow your business with us. The Powder Coating Near Me directory can get your powder coating shop the real exposure it needs to succeed when you list your job shop today. Join a list of top custom coaters who've listed their credentials to be discovered by the customers who are searching for powder coating every day. Head over to powdercoatingnearme.com, click Add a Coating Shop, and start creating your very own page for free. Yes, free. You can add your logo, name, address, phone number, map listing, social media links, photos, video, and more. When you submit your listing, we'll get notified and approve you right away. Now you can add all the categories you specialize in and even add your own tags. Get the SEO and valuable backlinks your company needs for authority and getting ranked. You can even use the link you create and share it to your favorite social media profiles to build legitimacy as a custom coder. What are you waiting for? Become part of the largest consumer search directory in powder coating in the world, all for free. Find and click the link in this podcast or go to powdercoatingnearme.com to get started growing your brand today.
It's funny. It's that I don't know if there's a lot. Like I said, Rick Gaiman there at Keystone, he said to me, we're interested in this. We are absolutely interested. And he was talking about having something by the end of this year. The other thing, just besides wood, it's really the low cure. Because you're finding, and I was kind of surprised to see this, some, getting back to architecture, some metal doors could not be powder coated because of the heat that the doors would somehow warp out. So with this low cure coatings, not only just wood, but also there are some metal and aluminum substrates that could probably be, doors and things like that,
right.
There wouldn't be that risk of them warped because of the heat that's in there.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're talking about in point 2, right? Is these lower cure. Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah,
here? Like
right.
The lower cure stuff.
Right. When you've got, when you've got throughput, if you've got to wait around, it's like in the automotive industry where, they're still doing a lot of liquid, but, automotive for many years in the 80s and 90s, it was just, it was so slow because when they would coat these cars, you had to let it dry, right? You had to let the cars dry. And then they came out with, they coat on top of a coat, wet on wet. I mean, they do it that way. And so it saved them like half the time. And it's getting faster and faster. So the automotive industry said, we need to fix this. And they got the technical people and engineers and figured out a way. So I think this is what it is. There's no powder coater will say, I don't want to speed up my line. I mean, they want to get things through, get it going, get it up, get it coated, get it out. They want to do it that way. And so these low cure powders, I think that's what they're talking about because, they need to meet the demand that's out there. So, we don't want to have things, the lines go so slow through the ovens and such and the cooling off. This is what we're looking at. Is we need to kind of get better at that. Who's really doing this? And I've talked to Adam Brumfield there at RMF. They're an actual, they're an electroplater, okay?
Right.
Electroplater. But they do almost a ton of automotive. I mean, they're down in South Carolina where it's the automotive capital now, no longer Detroit. But, you're getting this, multi-coated system where you're getting a zinc nickel on a part, and then they wanted powder coat on it. And this is, and specifically like brakes, okay? Because you can see those parts now. And they want, so you see those brake pads. And I think when, they were really in a lot of electroplating and such, and then when they got into doing the powder coating, it was pretty slow. And they were like, well, this isn't good enough. We really need to get it going faster to meet this throughput. So, but yeah, that's what you're talking about there is really, again, really, working on the technology. I don't know if there's a lot of companies out there, I'm talking about the powder coating suppliers that are really, this is top of mind for them. It's almost like they need to see the big demand for this.
Yeah.
First, I talked to a couple of them. I won't name names, but a lot of them are like, why would we want to spend all that time to do this if we're not seeing a huge demand of it? I mean, Sherwin-Williams got into it because they bought a company that was making low cure powder coating, and they just bought them, and now that's their top of line product. But they saw that,
right.
and so that's sort of a tip off. And if you get somebody like Sherwin-Williams that goes out and buys this a company because they want that technology, that gives you an indication that maybe this is where the industry is going a little bit. Is that we need to really grow the low cure for both MDF and also metal coatings as well.
And hey, I mean, look at the powder cost increases for powder coating for powders. You think they've increased those prices, and they're calling that it's supply chain disruption or raw material shortages and stuff like that. But do you think they're going to roll back those prices?
Never.
Hell no. Hell no.
Happens.
Right.
No.
So like in a sense, I kind of understand what they're what they're saying here, because how are they going to stay ahead if these cost increases stay put? And I mean, we've been reporting it, thanks to you. We've been re-reporting it thanks to you and a few other sources and stuff like that, about how much price increases have gone up like 40%. From the two largest suppliers, although they say, we're trying to hold them back, and just to make us feel better. But we all know maybe it was time for them to increase prices anyways, I don't know. But I think it was kind of like, this is one way that we can try to stay ahead of the game against costs and overhead, is through, faster output and stuff like that.
Well, and one thing, Bill Stock there, I mean, one of the things he told me is, as it's harder to get employees, right? You can't be just having a second shift, or a third shift or whatever. Those are luxuries now. You got to get it done during your one shift that you've got people there.
That's a good point.
It goes back, right? It goes back to the of how do we just move that line faster? It's like people the shortage and people want it today, tomorrow. When can I get this? Those type of things. So it's a lot of those, and again, like I said, that seemed to be one that both. I know every shop wants that, just because if you're moving stuff more through, you can make more money at it. So
right, exactly, right.
Yeah.
That's an old adage. So this one kind of shocked me. I was not aware of this as a problem.
Well, it's funny. It did me too. And I heard it from a couple that said, look, there's a lot of coaters out there that just aren't doing this right. And it's not good for the industry when we can't do it right. And so, I know even, I think Jace even, and said to me, people just have to really, take control of their own operations. Try to, if you're asked to do this much, do a little bit more. And so, and Dwayne there was really critical. And he said, I don't think a lot of people, they think that every piece of substrate is the exact same, and you just treat it and get it through. But, you really have to spend a little bit more time and get educated on it, which, again, a lot of it is because you're seeing these AAMA certifications, about what they want, these things. You're getting a lot more, architects that are actually becoming more aware of what powder coating can do for them. The sustainability, that was what kind of struck me, is that it's more of the sustainability. They can chalk it up as a sustainable process. But yeah, it's, they're just, and trust me, everybody's heard the stories, you've probably got them where, customers come to you and say, the last person I had doing it, they weren't doing it right,
Right.
And, good for you, you're getting that business, but also everybody starts looking at you a little wearily, everybody in the industry, if you don't have that high quality you need to do. So this is what I think what they were trying to say is that, look, there's, you have to really pay attention to the aluminum, to the, the specifications of what they want and how you clean, how you pre-treat. You cannot hand wash this stuff. You've got to do it, and phosphates or whatever you're going to be using. Get it done properly, and again, therefore you might see some more work, shored back to the U.S. on this. So yeah.
I spent a half a day just responding to a contractor yesterday on whether he should be choosing aluminum or steel for this large railing system going into a new condominium complex here. And I mean, like, I had a blog post for frick's sakes, by the time I was done, I'm like, I can turn this into a blog post. But we already had this discussion on the phone, and so I understand it's coming down to the wire. A lot of railing systems get put in towards the end of a budget. I'm sure he's running out of money. The cost of aluminum is skyrocketing. We've got, personally, I just found out that Maui has a metal shortage right now. So contractors actually having to order stuff direct from the mainland just to get it here because our local suppliers are running out. And so, I'm like, hey, you want to go with aluminum, this is what it's going to look like. And if you don't, this is what you're going to have to do with the steel part, like it's going to rust and this and that. So I don't know. His email just popped up while we were, we'll see what he says in response to my blog post yesterday. But anyways, yeah, I get it. And, some aluminum fabricators here are so good. A lot of times we'll just go right to coating. We'll do the etch and all of that, but rare on occasion, if it's we don't always have to get into the blast room to blast new aluminum because it's and we've not had a problem personally, but but when it comes to steel and some of this other stuff, it's just like, oh good God, please don't pick steel on a big project like this.
Well,
because if it was one man gate, I get it, but
because you said you even get people who put some type of anti-corrosion, anti-rust on there so they don't get the flash rust, and by the time it gets to you got to get it off. You got to figure it out and get it off. And
you can't get it off. It's like yeast. It's in the air. You know what I mean? Like, and we're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, so like it's nearly impossible. And so that's usually the first thing that we say, like when we're talking to somebody like that, is like, well, where is this going? Right? That's the first question. How big is this project and where is it going? Because if you're kind of up on the mountain a little bit, maybe not so much, we'll be more inclined to give you 2 quotes. But if you're right on the water, I'm not going to touch it because it's just going to fail and doesn't matter. And it'll be our fault. Right. So this number 4, the rise of architectural coatings. Tell me more about what he's talking about here, because it's a huge market. It's so huge, it scares me.
You're right. And I think what Ken is saying, be careful what you wish for. Everybody would like to, there's a lot of people that are doing architectural coatings. These are flat panels. Great. Okay. And he's talking about, you look at some of those parts and he's talking about, sunshades and trellises and things like that. When you get into that, they have little, bits of areas of trouble of how you hang the parts, how you get, the welded in caps, those type of things. Really, what he was trying to say is really, you better know what this part is. You better know how you can, drain the pre-treat, drain the cleaning, get everything ready. And then, on top of that too is, a lot of these places, is you've got it. You're like the shipping point for them. Okay. They don't want this thing being shipped back 4 different places before it gets put on a building or whatever it's going to be. So, you may have to have a staging area to properly, I know that Keystone, we talked about them earlier, same thing. I mean, they actually took a step back and said, wait, how are we doing this? How are we packaging this stuff? This is, the architectural, it's going to be seen. You cannot, we can't do a nice job, put it on a truck, have it shipped, and then it somehow gets nicked or something like that. So, but, what Ken was talking about, and he's done, major stadiums. He's done the Las Vegas Raiders Stadium and the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, and he does a lot of it, and he's got it down where, But that's one of the things is that, he's talking about, the buckling and some of the metals and things like that. So you just have to be careful is what he's trying to say is there's, they're all not, a fence railing or you've got this panel or a trellis. It's like you really should become more aware of these, these parts and what they do and how they're manufactured and stuff so that you can, when you get them, you can code them properly and the customer's happy and you are too. So that's really what I think he was trying to talk about with that.
Yeah, I agree with, that's a very valid point. I forgot what I was going to say here, but.
Well, the other part too, like I said, I know you guys is that, he was talking about, he's seeing a lot more, just not just one color. They want to see patinas. They want to see, all these different, the wood grains and things like that. It's like I said, be careful what you wish for because, people come back and say, hey, listen, we saw this. And it's like, we want you to do it this way. And you need to have that expertise or, do you give up the contract because you can't do it? Or do you learn how to do it to complete that contract and keep that customer? Or, do you just try to wing it? Those are the things that, so I think that's probably what he was talking about too, is that it's getting more sophisticated about what they want. Architects like it and they want to get more of it. So.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I know PCI is working on right now as I'm part of that group and is sort of just trying to get ahead of, helping the custom coders or applicators help the architects call for that spec and how to make it easier for them to call for that spec. And so that's what, they're trying to do as a group to make it easier to get us more upfront and less, more defined in a sense, more definition about calling for a powder coating spec and just making it easier for designers and architects to do that.
Right. Well, there's an old saying, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And, in the electroplating world, I said, cover that as much too. They have, over the years, I've seen them more get actively involved with their customers on the design of parts, whether it's Ford, General Motors, Harley Davidson. If there's going to be a change design in a part, they are there before that design is done to give their input on, here's how the best way that we can coat this for you, because at the end of the day, it has to be coated properly. And so whether, whether PCI or gets together and starts having, meetings with the Architecturers Association to say, hey, listen, we want to do this with you. We want to make sure that, you get the parts you want, you get them the way they want. Let's have discussions early on. And, that way, if a architect is going to design certain things, they need to probably think of the end product and go to coders and say, hey, listen, what would you say about this? Because I'm sure you all get parts and say, gee, I wish it was designed this way because we could really code it a lot easier if we had this hole here or just, whatever it's going to be. So that, to me, I think is where the industry should be going, is working more of a collaboration. And to give you an example of this, the Aluminum Anodizers Association works, it's actually the same group as the Aluminum Extruders Association, right? So they basically work together and they have their conferences together. So, it would be very, I think, important for PCI and others to really embrace this. Another one I'll tell you, I think is really, really, really important. And this was an interesting thing. Years ago, I wrote a story about it was a U.S. naval ship that, and I think I got the story from somebody at Axel Nobel about how there was more powder coating on this warship than ever before.
Oh.
And they always liquid painted it and just rust, and the U.S. government was spending, it's their biggest. Somebody told me, I think it actually true. It's the U.S. government's military's biggest expense is corrosion fighting. Okay. It's like $22 billion that they're spending money on. But and I remember calling the gentleman from the Pentagon who was in charge of approving the powder to be on this ship. And one of the things he said to me was, we got this idea not from the powder, I don't say the powder coating industry, not the institute, but nobody really from the industry came to us and said, why don't you start powder coating this stuff? It would look great. And he said, I'm shocked that nobody lobbies us from the industry about speccing out these, like you could show, they were like louvers on these like windows, louvers and everything that was done, everything. But there was like 3,000 parts on this ship that had been powder coated. Now, of course, they don't make these, it's not like an automobile where they're running them off the assembly line, but still. But he was just real shocked that nobody was really going to the military and saying, here's how good powder coating is. Here's why you should spec it in, all these type of things. So getting back to architecture, I think it's going to be something where the industry should really be developing these relationships with them and having, really good, communications. I'll tell you one other quick story. Years ago, I wrote about up in Minnesota, a company, two guys who'd been, had the company, a powder coating company. I think they bought it 6 years earlier, but they were investing $2 million into a aluminum architectural coating line. They wanted to get into that business because they read that in Minneapolis, where they live, there was more architects per capita in Minneapolis than only second outside New York. So I don't know. I think it was like 265. So they bought this, were getting it installed. And after they got it installed, they invited every architect within like 50 miles to come. And they had like 90 show up. They were shocked. Wow. They expected 10. They got 90. And, and they were blown away by it, which reinforced what they wanted to do. But it showed them that we should have done it a long time ago and we should have went bigger. So, right. But that's the thing. And you got to think about that of how to approach these people. Is it nationally or is it something that you do in your town? Do you just go out and market yourself to architects in Hawaii? Or,
I mean, that's been, our number one goal in 2020 was to move forward with that, and do something like that. But of course, everything went sideways, but we're getting back on track now, and now more than ever, because we've got this new product that we want to develop, and I guess what I've come to realize now that I'm on this committee is sort of like, well, here I thought I was the only powder coater in the world with this problem of getting this information up into the atmosphere of architects and interior designers to call the spec and all this kind of stuff, when really the whole world is, at least the whole regular world is experiencing the same problem. Not only that, but it's also like, I was going to try to bring up a thing that I had talked about with another member in our industry. And we were going to try to partner on writing a white paper on it, although I've never written a white paper. But some of the concepts that we talked about was kind of like defining this consumer market for powder coating and the reasons for using powder coatings is kind of, I'll be happy to go with you on this one too, because I think it would be a really good article. And we just, I guess one of the things that we wanted to convey is that this information to the general consumer audience in powder coatings is mostly wrapped up in industry-only circles, which we talked about earlier, about OEM specs and all this kind of stuff. It's just this language that these people talk on. But there's a whole nother group out there, people like us that don't necessarily need to explain that technically to our circles, but we do need to deliver some kind of a webinar or tool to get the attention locally. not just globally, but locally, so that we can get these jobs and stuff like that.
You're talking about mostly from consumers you're talking about?
Consumers, architects, residents,
right.
homeowners, like how can we better serve our local environment by sharing some of this information. And some of the key things that I had was like, I can go to a home show and do a free presentation on powder coatings. I can do a lunch and learn with architects. I can do like some of these other things, I can join memberships. Like we've joined the Maui Chamber of Commerce, and within that group, there is I think a contractor subgroup in that group, and sort of trying to make way into some of these larger pools where we could maybe pick up more interest from those groups to say, hey, I didn't know about this. Well, what is this? And can I spec it out next time, kind of thing for my next job. So I guess that's kind of where we were going with it. The other thing is like, there's a whole like other thing about condominium complex. And I hate to bring up a tragedy about it, but like, the thing that happened down in Florida was sort of like a shocker for a lot of people, but we do have aging infrastructure, particularly along the coastlines. And that was just one example, but we have that here. There's been buildings here that have had that same issue that they've constantly addressed for the last 10 or 20 years of, digging that rebar out and redoing it and all that kind of stuff. But how can powder coatings help these condominium or HOA groups figure out the best way to approach maintenance? And that leads me back to what my half-day project of emailing this contractor back. It's like, okay, look, you should be looking, he was asking me, well, what, can you give me a bid for both steel and aluminum? And my question to him was, what do you see other people in your area using? What are the other resorts in your area using? Are they using aluminum or are they using steel? Because you're just down the street from them, and there's a reason why they're doing aluminum instead of steel. Yeah. So don't pick this one. It's kind of like my thing was like, don't pick this one, but really think about the longer implications of maintenance and what is going to happen later on down the line, and what's it going to look like? Right. Can a homeowner handle looking at a gate or a railing that has like more or less the Alka-Seltzer-y white stuff bubbling up underneath? Or are they going to see some, or do they want to see some nasty, rusty, grade D stuff draining down and getting all over the concrete, walkway? And, do they want to see that? Which one is, and then we are on an island. So there's this sustainability issue of disposing of it and filling up the landfills. And, how do you want to be represented? Are you just this blow-in contractor that kind of comes in? Because we get them all the time here on an island. They just come in, they do their thing, and then they ruin everything, and their warranties aren't warranted, and they just blow out, and nobody can chase them for a lawsuit later on because it's happened a million times before. So, these are just some of the things that he needs to consider, especially if they're buying and holding for 10 years or whatever it is that they're doing. So,
hey guys, we never thought the Powder Coater podcast would take off as well as it has. The level of engagement and bringing custom coaters together has been wonderful and worth every late night edit and weekend recording.
Whether it's product features, smart business strategies, or custom coater interviews, we are encouraged to continue to bring great content. That's why we're going to show you how you can help us just a little bit more by sponsoring the show for as little as $1, $5, or $10 per month.
Just go to rosscoat.com page and look for the Become a Patreon button in the upper right-hand corner of the page. Once you're there, you can scroll to learn more about our goals and mission, grow our community by bringing new episodes and news each week.
With every sponsor level, you get something for yourself, too, to guarantee your success as a powder coater. We are so thankful for you and enjoying the content we bring you each week, and hope you show your support by becoming a sponsor. And level up your powder coater game. Yeah. Okay. So let's get to this last point. Where did it go? Where did my thing go? Hold on. There we go. So this one is 5 thermoplastic, nylon, and antimicrobial coatings. I didn't read this one. Tell me. I got so excited for the first 4. I'm like, I got to have you on the show.
You know, it's funny. The microbial coatings, of course, I think it was just top of mind for everybody in the world last year. Okay. It's like, okay, hey, can I sell something as an added value benefit to something okay. But, thermoplastic and nylon, I said, Steve Hockett there from out in Stockton, they do a lot of the thermoplastic and nylons, but they were getting a lot more people that were asking for that, really in the bigger quantities. But there's a batch process he was talking about. But it's something that time to time that they're seeing a lot more of those come apart. I didn't really, it's probably something I'll probably go back and revisit with Steve about what type of work is that, where's it coming from? Because that's one of the things I would probably like to know is where's it all, what type of industry is it coming from? But really, the various types of that, somebody had mentioned to me, fluidized bed and things like that, but those don't see those as much as with those too much. But yeah, like I said, but the microbial was something that was just in everything that was being built last year. Right. Was can it kill germs? And ongoing, this might be a bigger issue. Maybe that's a spec that people saying is, listen, we want that. If you're going to coat it, we want you to put that microbial on there. It's going to be a good selling point. Consumers may be looking to buy products that have that. I'm just not. I think we're too close to it right now, but maybe in 5 years we'll see that's a huge. That's been a huge in demand item. So
yeah, and what else too is what I see is complete changes and renovations of spaces, public spaces like restaurants, hotels, resorts, and hospitals, that kind of medical arena where, you still have to see someone in person, but the whole thing when you walk in is going to be completely changed to where it is today, right? Very open.
You're going to see more barriers, more, not just this huge open space. Whether it prevent germs, I doubt it. It looks good.
No, it's a mental, right? Like I have this private space to myself kind of thing. It's sad in a sense, it's like they're kind of more or less pulling us apart even further. But I think that one of the things is if they could do something like this, if this could be the next best thing or the next greatest thing, is that it could actually help bring people together, because they could be sitting at a table knowing that it's antimicrobial or something, if it gives relief to people, I don't know, but I think that's what I'm so excited about in terms of architectural or changes, and we're not seeing this now, but in the next 5 years, I would definitely say you're going to see a lot of changes to public spaces in the way that they're designed and function, and that could be very big for powder coatings in general.
Right, I agree, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that was
like I said, the rest of them were just things that like I said that probably are facing, like I said, everybody's got the labor shortage,
right?
I know, like I said, Bill Stock was telling me, why would right now unemployment was paying $17 an hour. That's what unemployment was paying. He said the unemployment office is my biggest competition. He's right, and it's always going to be that way. And whether more shops will look at automating their processes, that again, that remains to be seen. I think we're going to see that years from, 3 to 4 or 5 years from now, whether shops did that. I can't tell you how many shops, job shops and coders say to me, if I had people, I could take on more work or expand. I want to expand, but I got to have people. I can't do it. I can't go out and, get a bank loan for expanding and building a new line if I can't find people to do it. And it's so really a lot of people are just on hold with it. I know there's a shop down in Phoenix that he finally did it. It's kind of an interesting story. I wrote about them earlier. They actually were using people coming right out of prison systems. And they did a really good job of vetting these people. And, they were coming in and these were stepping stone jobs for people. They weren't really career things. Right. And so, it really worked well for them. But yeah, like I said, the age of Amazon, I know one of the shops told me that. It was like, everybody wants it tomorrow. What do you mean it's going to be a week? What do you mean? That's where, everything is that way. You look at, grocery stores now, everybody's delivering it. They're going to bring it to you in a drone. It's like, get it now. There is no wait for this. So it's a lot of things I think that people are trying to fight, or they're up against a lot. So hopefully soon that'll sort itself out with that. So.
Yeah, we talked about Amazon in an earlier trends report or podcast, where they were talking about near sourcing, and it's kind of a newer term. It is, or the Amazon effect. This is a little different age of Amazon. Is like it is kind of like that, but it's a little slightly different. Where it's like, they have, I guess, especially Europe leaders are wanting things more, rather than they're centrally owned, but their accessibility is local. And that's, I think, what they mean by near sourcing. But, okay, so let's see, embracing multi-layer coating processes.
Yeah, this was, like I said, I was at actually a plating conference years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago in Detroit. And it was automotive. It was in Detroit, so it was all these automotive people were there, and that was one of the things they were talking about with the coating the audience was electroplaters and anodizers and those type of things. But they were saying to them, look, we're going to get some of the parts that we've got on cars, we're going to want not only zinc nickel plated, but we're going to want to put a powder something on there. And so, like I said, especially in the brakes, those type of things. But and you're seeing some of these like super things of like, an E-coat, a powder over E-coat, which, would be a tremendous coating resistance and everything. So that's where, again, it's really demand that needs it. Like I said, the one, Adam Brumfield from our Royal Metal Finishing was the one that was saying that they were seeing a lot of that. I know Atotech is doing which was heavily involved in the electroplating industry as a supplier of those chemicals, is now doing a lot with powder coating too. They're kind of so you're seeing this crossover, but yeah, it's to the point where you're just not getting a raw substrate. It may not be you're getting a raw substrate. You're getting a substrate that is got a zinc nickel on it. So you have to treat it differently. You have to treat it, pre-treat it, and care for it differently, and get a good bond on it. How do you do that? Those are the things that was I think in that discussion with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing something similar happening visually on Instagram with some of the more influencer type powder coaters, where they're polishing the rim and then they're putting the top coat on and stuff like that. Where they're doing it during the restoration process. So that, like before, they used to just take new set of rims, put a top coat on, and you're good to go. But then how does that stick on there for any kind of length of time, and stuff, so in a sense, it's kind of like meeting that Google search clients' demands, and challenging themselves to see if they can do something like that. It's just kind of a newer trend that I see some of the more influencer type going for and stuff, I'm not sure that regular average everyday coder would feel so fastidious about doing it. But it I think listening to your customer obviously is the number one thing you can do, rather than just shuffling them off. But because it does challenge you to kind of level up your game a little bit more and stuff like that. So it's nice to see, who knows where this will go. And I do think that trends can come from the bottom up.
Well, and again, it's a new market. It's a new market that you really haven't been doing a lot with a lot more automotive, these type of things. So it would really be and anytime, I think, anybody who's the first person in and, the pioneers in it, it opens up to a lot of other people. So who knows? Right.
Yeah. And this last one is managing.
Managing. Like I said, when we spoke about that before, and you were talking about quoting and that's what Dallas was saying. Dallas Cooley was saying is that, you avoid the heartache when you can really be open up and frank and honest with, when you're bidding projects, is to say, look, a lot of it depends on the substrate you're getting, the material you're getting, whether it's warped or if it's not cleaned properly or it's imperfect. Like I said, because sometimes that will, powder coating just doesn't hide that all the time. Mm-hmm. And so that's what he was trying to say, is that make sure that you manage what their expectations of. It's, it's kind of, I don't want to say garbage in, garbage out, but it's, you're going to coat what you're going to be given to coat, and that's going to be their expectations. Therefore, something needs to be done either on their end before it gets to you, or they just need to understand that, the sample that they're looking at from wherever it was, may not always look like that. And so, but, just bringing that up early on is, I think, is the key.
It kind of goes back to my half a day project of emailing this contractor, and saying, okay, you want this or do you want that? Like, what's your better outcome here? Because, and in a sense, it's kind of hard because I didn't want to convey the fact that my finishes were subpar, but there's only at some point, could happen 5 years from now, could happen. There's just too many other things that could happen on the job in the install that could eliminate or erode our best finish, right? It could be the metal, it could be the the attachment hardware, it could be the location. There's just so many variables. So like, I didn't want to sound like I was, that he wasn't going to get a top quality finish, but I wanted to kind of give him this longer term ideal, I guess, or visualness. And that's what, to kind of wrap this up. I mean, that's kind of what we were talking about earlier, which was, getting this in front of the architects because these are the planners, right? The designers, the HOAs and the AOAOs, condominium resort complexes, home ownership is, at an all-time high, and protecting that asset is the most important thing, whether it's, some condo in Maui or your home, in Texas or whatever. So like, just having those broad, far-reaching end results, I guess, about how to handle it. And that's my point to him yesterday was, well, if you go with aluminum, then you can eventually restore it, because most of the time when we've seen projects done like this in the steel, it's just basically throw away and start over, because they've waited so long to get it to get it to a point where they want to restore it. But at least with aluminum, they could take it off and have us fix it up and make it look new again. Whereas, rusted out steel, I mean, chances are maybe not, so it's really just something that they can plan and maintain, or plan and redo later on. And stuff like that. So it's really just, I think this is a very valid point, especially if you can do that, Well,
what is funny is that, and this, I mean, whatever, you're the last, if whatever you're coating, if it's going to be sold, you're the last part of the manufacturing chain that gets it, right?
Right.
And so, they want it fast, they want it cheap, they want it, everything else. And that's why I think, the coating, but it's also the most important because that's what everybody sees. It's got to withstand everything. And so I think that's why it's important, I think, for people in the powder coating industry to really be at that table, like I said, to really be able to talk with people, architects or, people in automotive or, whatever it is, about what they, to give recommendations on that. Well, hey, if you're going to make that out of steel, I wouldn't do that. But
right.
Right. And so I think that's where it's important, I think, for the industry to really be active in that and to branch out and really, be very, open and that outreach of really saying, hey, we're over here coating your parts. We'd like to have some conversations with you. Here's some things you need to consider. Right. And I think you'd be amazed because everybody's going to be open to that. I mean, they're going to be, if you could save them. If you
get access to that person.
If you get access to them, right.
That's the problem is a lot of times it'll come from the top. You don't ever talk to that person,
right.
We've been in that many, many times. And so it's like, whoa, back up the cart here. Like, come on down here and somebody come down here and look at my samples. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or let's have a conversation about it. I don't care who it is, whatever kind of thing. So I think that custom coaters, sometimes they're so worried about, trying to get our, maybe we're competing on price or some other thing, and we don't stop to think about this point. And it's so important and so clutch, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because they're too busy trying to compete with their neighbors or whatever. But you have to kind of, and then the pitfall to that is if you don't manage these expectations, then it will come back to haunt you. It will come back in your face.
You're going to manage something.
Right.
Yes, you're going to end up having the same conversation some way or shape or form. So yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So, well, this has been awesome.
Well, I
Tim.
appreciate you letting me come by. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
And
nice to see your apartment looks so well decorated there. That blue really sets off your eyes.
Yes, exactly. But no, I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate it. I get a chance to listen to it because it gives me great ideas. I know I've written down 3 or 4 great ideas here right now. That'd be a good story.
Great. That's awesome. Always happy to inspire anybody I can. And just before we go, tell us again, okay, so it's finishing and coating.com. And it's AND. And I'll put the link in the description just so everybody knows how to get there. But
and we, and the 2 things is that, we have a weekly newsletter that I send out that I work very hard to make sure, because I know getting in front of people like yourselves and other owners of facilities, it's I think you people are smart enough to, look at something and go, it's not interesting to me anymore. And I try to do that. I try to get things that are interesting that, so you can read about, trends, or like I said, read about other people doing the same thing you're doing. So, but we have a weekly newsletter. It's free and people can just go to our site and sign up for it. I'll send it to you. I never sell that information. It's nothing like that. It's very private with that. But like I said, it's, I enjoy doing this and telling stories and bringing, stories of people who are in the same industry as you're in, or in the anodizing, whatever. And one thing I realized years ago is that, yes, you powder coat, but first you're a business person, right?
Right.
And you've got to make margins. You've got to make a profit. You've got to manage employees. You've got to market your business. So I try to bring a lot of that in of when I write, it seems like I'm not going to sit there and tell you how to coat that part,
right?
But I'm going to tell you how they got customers, how they marketed themselves, how they, got and kept employees, how they got and kept customers. I did a story in January, how to fire your customer. And it was, I got a lot of.
I read that one. That was a good
because
one.
You've got to do that.
Yeah.
But those are the things that I try to do, is really help people not only from the technical point of what you need to do as far as coding, but also how to run your business, and also to let people know that they're not the only one that's had this problem. Other people have had this problem, and here's how they solved it. and got over it and flourished because of it. So again,
Yeah.
I appreciate you letting me come on and talk a little bit about it. I do.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I look forward to every email I get and stuff. So I hope everybody out there will subscribe to finishingandcoating.com. Thank you, Tim Pennington. And keep on writing and
I will do that.
Idea inspiring.
Will do. Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.